From A&E, this is Biography. For November 27th, 1998, Biography with Peter Graves.
He's one of America's favorite actors and most admired people. Paul Newman has always been far more than just another handsome face with piercing blue eyes. He's built camps for sick children and a food company that donates its profits to charity. He's also known for his activism and auto racing, his enduring marriage, and his line of food products. But first and foremost, Paul Newman is an old-fashioned movie star, and he has been from the moment he got the lead in Somebody Up There Likes Me. That was more than 4 decades ago, and just about everyone has liked Paul Newman ever since.
What we got here is a failure to communicate.
He'd love to have fun.
Oh, I don't want to be hoggish. Lon, you want a piece of it? Wow.
Paul is a class act.
My God, you are some beautiful woman.
He's a totally unpretentious person.
Never say never.
He knew exactly what he wanted to do.
I don't think he'll ever get it out of his system. I don't think he wants to.
$500 says you choke right now.
You think this boy is a hustler?
The most famous blue eyes in film history first opened on January 26, 1925. The second son born to Arthur and Teresa Newman, Paul grew up in the relative comfort of Shaker Heights, a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio.
Shaker Heights was a great place for a kid to grow up. There were big estate-type homes around the Shaker Lakes area, and then as you went back away from the lakes, there were smaller homes, like Paul's and mine, but not bad. We led such a play life as kids pre-World War II. We did practical jokes together. We snuck into the North Randall racetrack together. We rode motorbikes together, and he was a speed whiz even then, and Paul would come over almost every afternoon, and we would play pool up in the pool room. And he was just short of marvelous. And I can still picture him lying across the table, feet off the ground, making bridge shots.
An avid theatergoer, Paul's mother encouraged her handsome son to try his hand at acting. At the age of 7, he played a court jester in a school production of Robin Hood, singing a song written by his Uncle Joe.
Joe Newman was a Cleveland famous, at least if not nationally famous, poet. He was also a playwright and very much into the arts. Paul's father, Arthur, was more the bookkeeper, businessman type. We both grew up in prosperous surroundings in the middle of the Depression. They owned this wonderful sporting goods store, which, if you're a New Yorker, would be similar to Abercrombie and Fitch. It was a very, very prominent, well-to-do business.
An average student with a knack for avoiding study, he graduated from high school in 1943. Drifting from job to job, he eventually took employment as an encyclopedia salesman.
Paul Newman and I both sold encyclopedias as one of the ways to pick up money. He sold a ton of Collier's encyclopedias. I was a stiff. I probably sold no more than 2 sets or 3 sets.
Restless and uncertain of his future, Paul, like many other young men of his day, enlisted in the Naval Air Corps to fight for his country. Selected for flight training, he was sent to Yale University by the Navy. But after 4 months, the young airman was found unfit to be a pilot. His famous blue eyes were, in fact, colorblind. Undeterred, he enlisted in the regular Navy and served as a radio operator on torpedo planes in the South Pacific. Based in Hawaii, Guam, and Okinawa, Paul Newman's war experience gave him a maturity beyond his years. Returning to Shaker Heights in 1946, he enrolled as a 21-year-old freshman at Ohio's prestigious Kenyon College. There, he devoted himself to literature and drama. He also displayed an enthusiasm for sports, joining the football team as a linebacker. But one night, after practice, Newman and some of his teammates were arrested for brawling in a local bar. 2 of the youths were expelled. Paul and the others were kicked off the team. It was a humiliating and embarrassing incident, one which only made the young veteran more determined to make good, as he did, playing the lead in a college production of The Front Page. For the next 2 years, Paul poured as much energy into acting as he had into sports. Graduating with a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1949, his father expected him to return to Shaker Heights and enter the family business. But Arthur Newman's son had other ideas. After a relatively carefree life of privilege and procrastination, Paul sought proof that his college experience could be translated into a theatrical career. Within 2 hours of receiving his diploma, he was on a train headed to Williams Bay, Wisconsin, and a season in summer stock. Now immersed in the theater, Paul became convinced that he had found the one profession to which he could dedicate the rest of his life. Moving on to Woodstock, Illinois, he became a member of the renowned Woodstock Players.
Woodstock was a proving ground, particularly for groups of actors who had gone to dramatic schools, where they had opportunities to work for 3-4 weeks before they ever did a play. And it was compressed into a different show each week. We did everything but sell tickets. And it was a training ground for Paul, for Betsy Palmer, for myself, and the year before for Shelley Berman and Geraldine Page. We were all young. I was 22. I think Paul is a year and a half or so older. The first day I saw him, I said to myself, my goodness, it's not really important whether this kid can act. He's just gorgeous, and if he ever gets in front of a camera, he's got it made.
Paul Newman had absolutely no idea whatsoever that he was good looking. He had no idea that he had these gorgeous, piercing eyes. He was the most unaffected person I've ever met in my entire life. He must have found out eventually that his looks were appealing, but he was unaware as a young man.
One person who noticed the budding young actor's good looks was a vivacious, brown-eyed actress by the name of Jackie Witt. Within a few months, Paul and Jackie were husband and wife. That same year, he appeared in over 15 plays. But just as things were looking up for the young actor, his father became gravely ill. Returning home to help with the family business, Paul and his wife were expecting the arrival of their first child. In 1 year, he had gone from a carefree college student to a family man with serious responsibilities. After the death of his father in May 1950, Paul was faced with the choice of life as a prosperous shopkeeper or the uncertainties of a career in acting. Making the difficult decision to sell the family business, he decided to return to Yale University.
He enrolled the following fall in Yale's Graduate School of Drama as a directing major, intending to go back to Kenyon College as a directing teacher. He never intended to become a professional actor. He left with $4,000, his wife, his son. They moved into a frame house in New Haven, and Jackie was staying home with their son while Paul was working and going to school. During a production in the Little Theater, a husband and wife team of agents spotted him and gave him their card and invited him to come to Manhattan.
It was an offer too good to resist. In the 1950s, New York was an actor's mecca. Post-war playwrights like Tennessee Williams and Arthur Miller were capturing a new audience for the American theater. And for the first time, that new audience wasn't always in the theater. The golden age of television had arrived.
Now, what is it, Sergeant?
It's the photo lab, sir. They say
Get to the point.
he keeled over, sir. All of a sudden. He's dead, sir. He's frozen to death.
After distinguishing himself in bit parts and a daytime drama, Paul Newman began a series of appearances in more important roles. A standout was a starring role opposite Frank Sinatra and Eva Marie Saint in a live broadcast of Thornton Wilder's classic, Our Town.
The first time I actually worked with him was on Our Town. After 2 weeks rehearsal, we were ready to have an audience, which was the television audience. It's like doing a play.
Do you, George, take this woman, Emily, to be your wedded wife? To have
Paul was very dear on Our Town, very sensitive.
To love and to cherish till death do us part. I do.
He's just such a fine actor. I've been spoiled rotten from those days.
Through his fellow performers, Paul became exposed to the now legendary Actors Studio, home to a new naturalistic acting style called the Method. The Actors Studio boasted such emerging stars as Marlon Brando, James Dean, and Marilyn Monroe.
He became a member of the Actors Studio inadvertently by helping out an actress, doing a scene with her from a Tennessee Williams play. And they were so taken with Paul Newman that he became part of the Actors Studio, and the actress never did get in.
It was while attending the Actors Studio that Newman was to land his first big Broadway role.
Paul came into New York and just accidentally ran into this third actor, and he said, listen, I've got to go up and see somebody at the William Morris office. And they went up to the William Morris office, and he went in to see an agent, and he came out about 10 minutes later or 15 minutes later, and Paul wasn't there. And he said to the receptionist, did you see the good-looking blonde fellow that was sitting? He says, oh, he's in that office there. And the door opened out. Out came Paul, shaking hands with an agent, and Josh Logan. And he was cast in Picnic.
Picnic proved to be one of that season's most successful plays. It also provided Paul Newman with the opportunity to work closely with several of Broadway's rising young actors and actresses. One of these was a young woman named Joanne Woodward.
Joanne Woodward was understudying the female roles, and they were very drawn to each other, but Paul Newman was married and he had a family, and he is a man who took being a father and a husband seriously.
In 1954, Newman was offered a contract with Warner Brothers Studios in Los Angeles for an impressive $1,000 a week. Although many New York friends cautioned him that the movie industry was no place for a serious actor, the young man was intrigued. Still in his 20s, Paul Newman had had a taste of success on Broadway and television. Now Hollywood and the motion picture industry offered a new challenge, a challenge he was ready to accept.
You're watching Paul Newman on Biography.
The most eye-opening thing about these vehicles isn't where they can take you, it's where they come from. Now through Monday, get 0.99 financing on all Oldsmobiles. That means $2,600 in average finance savings on 99 Intrigues. It's a perfect time to start something at Oldsmobile.
Gosh, you know, I just went to use the phone.
You say once you got back, your wife was gone.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
What?
Have you checked the hot enchilada?
Oh, no. Millicent gets terrible heartburn.
Not this time.
What's that?
Looks like the remains of an individually wrapped Pepsid AC chewable.
Introducing Pepsid AC Chewables, the first chewable to stop heartburn before it starts.
Millicent? Is that you?
Start living heartburn-free with new Pepsid AC Chewables.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time.
Bold yet seductively smooth. Timeless Beaulieu Vineyard wines. Fall in love with BV.
This is a world only a few know well. A world of risk and uncertainty, where the roads can take you to success or prosperity, or sometimes to no place at all. This is the financial world. For decades, banks and investment firms of mountainous size have ruled the land. Yet high above the horizon, another mountain has risen. A mountain called First Union. With 16 million customers, the nation's 8th largest brokerage and 6th largest bank. For a new perspective of the financial world, come to the mountain called First Union. Or if you prefer, the mountain will come to you.
The life of Paul Newman continues on Biography.
You stand in the streets of ancient Antioch, where Caesar's legions proclaimed his pagan power and the lash enforced his law.
Paul Newman's first film was very nearly his last. The Silver Chalice told the fictional story of the Greek slave who designed the cup used by Christ during the Last Supper.
It would have been very easy, Deborah, when we were in the desert, to yield to the temptation to be your husband.
Such a terrible picture. Paul was always very embarrassed about that film. He was running around in a little jersey tunic halfway to his knees.
Humiliated by his skimpy costume and wooden performance, Paul's friends had to get him drunk before he would agree to see the picture.
From the very beginning of his career, Paul Newman resisted being praised for his astounding good looks and being packaged as a gorgeous piece of beefcake. He's the kind of person who really only appreciates what he's able to accomplish with hard work, and he tried to succeed on the merit of his characterization rather than on his beautiful looks.
Afraid of being typecast as a typical Hollywood hunk, he yearned for the kind of serious roles that were being offered to Brando in On the Waterfront and Dean in East of Eden. One such role was that of prizefighter Rocky Graziano in the proposed screen adaptation of his gritty autobiography, Somebody Up There Likes Me.
Well, originally, James Dean was supposed to have done the part. He had read the book and liked it very much, and depending on the outcome of the screenplay, which Ernest Lehman had been assigned to do, he said he would like to do it.
But before the screenplay was completed, on September 30th, 1955, James Dean was killed instantly when he lost control of his Porsche on a deserted California highway.
Paul came in as a suggestion. I met him. It seemed to be fine. I thought he would be just fine for the role, and that was it.
Launching into a vigorous regimen of physical conditioning, he also began an around-the-clock observation of his real-life subject, both in and out of the ring.
Well, one of the advantages we had was the fact that we had Rocky to model after. Paul and I went back to New York, and we spent quite a lot of time with Rocky. We went down to the Lower East Side with him and walked around all these haunts where he hung out, met a lot of his former buddies, and we studied. Paul studied Rocky. The result, I think, turned out to be one of the best characterizations that Paul's ever done on the screen.
I'm going to tell you something, soldier. There's no place in this man's army for a wise guy. Do you understand that?
Wait a minute, you bum. I mean, you may be a captain and all that. You don't impress me so hot. You're so tough, come on outside.
Soldier, are you just plain crazy?
Maybe I am crazy with being sick and tired of this creep joint, but at least I ain't yellow.
In the summer of 1956, Somebody Up There Likes Me was released to glowing reviews, both for the film and for Newman. Paul Newman was now a full-fledged Hollywood star, and in demand in more ways than one. In 1956, while his wife Jackie and their 3 children remained in New York, Paul began a passionate and very private love affair with Joanne Woodward, the actress who had appeared with him on Broadway in Picnic. Although plagued with feelings of guilt about the romance, the chemistry between the 2 actors was undeniable. Woodward was beautiful, talented, and highly intelligent. Like Newman, she was an alumnus of the Actors Studio and had achieved major stardom after her Academy Award-winning performance in The 3 Faces of Eve.
Well, I never seen you take a drink before.
Hey, there are a lot of things you never seen me do before. That's no sign I don't do.
In 1957, Fox co-starred Hollywood's hottest young couple in William Faulkner's sultry southern drama, The Long Hot Summer. Shot on location in Clinton, Mississippi, the film crackled with erotic energy and put to rest any doubts Paul and Joanne had about working together.
Put them things down, Miss Clara, because I'm going to kiss you.
You proved it. I'm human.
Yes, ma'am. You're human, all right.
But what wouldn't go away were the growing rumors about Newman and Woodward's off-screen relationship.
Paul Newman probably would not have left Jackie Witt if she hadn't seen the intolerability of the situation and herself offered a divorce and a way out. Joanne Woodward and Paul Newman went to Las Vegas and had a wonderfully tacky Las Vegas wedding with people who were appearing in the various casinos as witnesses. It's unlike their public image, but it does fit in with their sense of humor.
Paul and Joanne settled in a modest apartment in New York's East 80s, a distinct departure from the kind of glamorous surroundings offered by Hollywood. Their guests included the best minds and sharpest wits of their generation. Close friends included writers like Gore Vidal, Christopher Isherwood, and Tennessee Williams. One of their apartment's chief attractions was a big brass bed from a New Orleans brothel.
Paul Newman vividly plays the emotionally tormented football hero.
I feel all the time like a cat on a hot tin roof.
Then jump off the roof, Maggie, jump off it.
In 1958, Paul Newman received his first Oscar nomination for his riveting portrayal of the sexually confused husband in Tennessee Williams' Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. On the night of the awards, there was much speculation that Paul would be able to match Joanne's success of the previous year. The award went instead to David Niven for Separate Tables.
The night of the actual Oscars, I was down there with my wife and Paul and Joanne by this time, and I had a sketch artist work with me. He made up a little phony kind of Oscar thing, little figure. We call it an Oscar. We presented it to Paul that night.
Despite his Oscar snub, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward were Hollywood's golden couple. In 1959, after a series of highly acclaimed roles, he was able to buy his way out of his Warner Brothers contract and shop around for better and more lucrative offers. For the first time, Paul was in complete control of his film career. Shuttling between Broadway and Hollywood, the Newmans balanced their bi-coastal careers with the demands of a new family, beginning with the birth of daughter Nell in April of 1959. After again co-starring with his wife in From the Terrace, Paul accepted an offer to star in Otto Preminger's epic story about the formation of Israel, Exodus.
Otto Preminger presents Exodus, with Paul Newman as Harry Ben Canaan, Eva Marie Saint as Kitty Fremont.
Paul was a very serious actor. He's serious about his work, worked hard, worked carefully, and always had that sense of humor. That's what I remember about him. I loved working with him.
For the half-Jewish, half-Christian actor, Exodus helped Newman get in touch with a heritage he hardly knew. It also reminded him that he had played it safe too long. It was time to take on another tough, realistic role like that of Rocky Graziano in Somebody Up There Likes Me. The character was Fast Eddie Felsen. The film, The Hustler. Brash, arrogant, yet undeniably charming, Fast Eddie gave Newman his best role to date as a scheming pool hustler, taking his one big shot against the legendary Minnesota Fats, played to perfection by Jackie Gleason.
Big John, do you think this boy is a hustler?
The Hustler was the first film where the Paul Newman rebel persona really solidified. The anguished, alienated loner that cannot function in society, but who slides by on his talent and his native charm. It was a perfect role for him, and he fitted it beautifully.
A tremendous critical and box office success, the film earned Newman his second Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. For Paul Newman, The Hustlers signaled the beginning of a highly productive and prolific period. In a series of now classic films, he redefined the image of the traditional American hero and brought a refreshing blend of cynicism and bold sexuality to the screen.
Don't you ever talk that way to me. Never! Never! What we've got here is failure to communicate.
But after receiving a third Oscar nomination for HUD and a fourth for his equally impressive and highly popular performance in Cool Hand Luke, Paul Newman was becoming one of the most nominated non-winners in Academy Awards history. Many began to speculate that he was so good, he made it all look too easy. But if his professional work went unrewarded, his personal life was exceptionally secure. Now 42, Paul and his wife Joanne shared an antique-filled carriage house in Westport, Connecticut, with their 3 daughters, Nell, Melissa, and Claire. Always anxious to expand his career and accept new challenges, in 1968, Newman directed his wife in the critically acclaimed film Rachel, Rachel. Paul Newman now enjoyed a life most actors only dream of. Avoiding the pitfalls that had consumed many of his actors' studio classmates, he remained, like many of his screen characters, cool, confident, and independent. But all of that was about to change.
My doorbell. Unfortunately, there was only one package of Stouffer's lasagna when your son and his fraternity showed up for dinner.
I'll call you back.
Hey, Mrs. C. Fortunately, it was the big one. Stouffer's family-style favorites. Classic homemade taste in larger sizes.
Now that the Bunny has the new advanced battery, it's a whole new ballgame. You have to be prepared for just about anything. Ain't that right, boys?
New Energizer Advanced Formula. No battery lasts longer.
Tonight's Biography on A&E, and you want to learn more about famous lives, then you'll love your local Barnes & Noble bookstore. Lose yourself in more than 150,000 titles. Browse the newsstand. Savor the cafe. Let your kids explore the wonders of reading, and visit the exclusive Biography section, where you'll find a wide selection of biography videotapes and Biography magazine. It's all at Barnes & Noble, the book lover's second home.
It's no great secret. It's pretty simple, really. We think dashing through the snow should be fun. We cherish good times with family. Well, most of us do. We count on our holidays to be shimmering, sparkling, special. We hope to surprise someone with a perfect gift, and to be surprised by one, too. That's why Pier 1 has assembled our finest holiday collection ever. Special holidays made simple, only at Pier 1 Imports.
Paul Newman on Biography.
Paul Newman is Butch Cassidy.
Better just one guy.
And the Sundance Kid is Robert Redford.
Don't you get sick of being right all the time?
They robbed trains, looted banks, and one girl shared their love and larceny.
Written by William Goldman, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was first thought of as little more than an offbeat comedy western.
If he'd just pay me what he's spending to make me stop robbing him, I'd stop robbing him.
But as directed by George Roy Hill and co-starring Paul Newman and Robert Redford as the good-natured, ill-fated outlaws, the film became one of the biggest box office blockbusters of all time.
Well, that ought to do it.
Think you used enough dynamite there, Butch?
The studio didn't want me. It was 20th Century Fox, and they wanted 2 stars. I think they wanted Steve McQueen at that time and Paul. And to my fortune, Paul and the writer, and George in particular. George is the one that went to the mat for it. He said, look, it's my movie. I'm the director. And finally, as I understood it, they just kept forcing him to look at other actors, and they ran out of other actors.
I don't mean to be a sore loser, but when it's done, if I'm dead, kill him. I'd love to.
The on- and off-screen chemistry between Redford and Newman was instantaneous. Both men were involved in a number of political causes, both had strong family ties, and both hated being matinee idols.
What are you doing? Stealing your woman? Take her. Boy, you're a romantic bastard. I'll give you that.
We had so much fun doing it. That has to be probably the most fun on any film I've had. I remember saying at one time, well, I almost felt guilty getting paid for it. It's not quite true, because I didn't get paid much at all, but working with Paul was great, and we developed a lifelong friendship as a result of it.
I had grown up seeing Paul Newman in movies, and when this opportunity came that I was going to work with him, you always wonder what someone is really like and what they're, what it's going to be like. And I found that he's a very generous, down-to-earth sort of person, very easy to work with, very easy to talk to.
I can't swim! Why, are you crazy? The fall will probably kill you.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was nominated for Best Picture of 1969. That same year, in an effort to take greater control over his professional destiny, Newman joined with fellow superstars Sidney Poitier and Barbra Streisand to form First Artists Pictures, a company designed to produce smaller budget, more independent films. But issues of personal and creative freedom were not new to the 44-year-old actor. Despite great wealth, Paul and his wife Joanne were dedicated to a series of worthwhile causes and political campaigns. In 1963, Paul had traveled to Alabama with Marlon Brando to promote civil rights. In 1968, he declared his opposition to the war in Vietnam and campaigned for Eugene McCarthy, speaking at the Democratic National Convention.
But let us remember that kindness and idealism may be practical too. And practical or not, they stand well in the eyes of God.
Newman said, "I'm not anti-establishment. I'm absolutely square. I'm just anti-idiocy, anti-dishonesty."
As I've said before, if I carry more weight than my credentials will allow, I apologize for that. But you can't consider yourself a disenfranchised citizen merely because you're in the acting profession.
Nothing in Paul Newman's family background would give anyone reason to believe that he would become such a social and political activist. I think the times and his character converged, and he became, as soon as he had the wherewithal to exert an influence through his fame, he became extremely active in an infinite number of liberal causes.
Following the success of Butch Cassidy, Paul Newman's career went into a sudden and unexpected slump. A string of modest but financially disappointing pictures did little for his morale and his reputation. But in 1973, Universal Pictures attempted to repeat the winning formula of Butch Cassidy by reteaming Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and director George Roy Hill in a comedy about two irrepressible con men, The Sting.
Chicago was the place to be in 1936. In those days, the big con was a dying art, until a first-class grifter on the lam from the FBI and a young gaffer from Joliet joined forces to con the Big Mick.
He's not as tough as he thinks. Neither are we.
The Sting was an unqualified box office hit, and together with The Towering Inferno in 1974, re-established Paul Newman as an international superstar. But once the spotlight turned too brightly on him, Paul retreated from Hollywood to his world of outside interests. Reluctant to grant interviews, shy of what he considered intrusions on his privacy, Paul Newman resented his image as a sex symbol. Particularly galling were rumors that all was not well with his marriage to Joanne Woodward. But as false as rumors were that his marriage was failing, it was true that Paul Newman had found a new love: auto racing. After preparing for his role as a race car driver in Winning in 1968, Newman found a sport that could help him escape the pressures of worldwide celebrity.
You're a winner.
What else?
He just wants to win. He doesn't care what the stakes are.
None of the IndyCar teams would rent us a car to teach them in.
Here's this guy, this actor, he's going to become a race driver. Yeah, right. No one really believed it. He started out, he was a little rough, but then gradually, step by step, he started picking it up, learning very quickly, learning how to sense and feel the car, using the brakes properly, and did very, very well.
In fact, Newman raced so well that he insisted on doing his own stunt driving, much to the dread of the studio bosses and his wife.
Joanne was not very keen on Paul driving a race car, period. Gradually, she started accepting it, I think. She finally accepted the fact that, hey, he's driving smooth, he's using his head, and he's really not going to get hurt. And then she got enthusiastic about it.
In 1975, he started his own team, PLN Racing, and in the next few years made good showings in dozens of races all over the country.
You're third fastest in this session. I think the track might have slowed up a little bit.
Thank you, Scott.
No problem.
Now planning his film shoots around his racing schedule, it seemed that this so-called diversion would become his new career. But as things got more competitive, they also got more dangerous, and Paul was involved in several harrowing crashes. Still, he always managed to walk away unhurt. There were many who said that Paul Newman was born lucky, that no one could have achieved so much wealth, fame, and happiness so easily without leading a charmed life. But no one would have predicted the tragic news the actor received while directing a play at Kenyon College in November of 1978. His only son, Scott, was found dead in a Los Angeles hotel room of an alcohol and drug overdose. Paul Newman's life would never be the same.
Give the gift that no one forgets. Bow! Camera.
Nikon, Canon, Fuji, Olympus, and Incredible Digitals at Rich Blitz prices.
I can't say Rich Blitz price it, but it means real low.
So say cheese with Ritz. What's Santa without an elf?
Neutrogena hand cream, developed in Norway for Arctic fishermen to protect their hands. 5 years of clinical tests prove it works better at rapidly healing dry skin, at retaining moisture longer. It works better. And now, new Neutrogena body moisturizer. It works better too.
Mitsubishi Diamante, the biggest engine in its class, loaded for under 30 grand.
Looking for the perfect holiday gift? Log on to A&E.com, the only source for A&E's complete online home video catalog. Secure shopping, exclusive offers. A&E.com, your 24-hour-a-day online shopping destination.
The Lamppost Gallery in downtown Newburgh has expanded. We now have a second gallery in the Clackamas Town Center in Portland. Come step into the light of a Kincaid world, where you will see two of the larger Thomas Kincaid signature galleries in the Northwest. Come in and experience these inspiring works by the acclaimed painter of light. The comfort, pleasant ambiance of our galleries will provide memories to last a lifetime. The Lamppost Gallery, now with two great locations in Newburgh and Portland.
As a winner, what's your secret?
She always plays 10 numbers hoping to hit 100 grand.
Plus, I have so many lucky numbers.
We both got our lucky coins.
18.
I have a way of scratching my tickets.
32 now.
And we always scratch all the little numbers all the way across.
Maybe I've been doing it wrong all this time.
If I scratch them just right.
I think I'll keep that to myself. Anybody can win. All you gotta do is buy a ticket. The secret's out of the bag.
The life of Paul Newman continues on Biography.
The death of Paul Newman's only son came at a time of deep personal and professional crisis for the 54-year-old actor. A string of disappointing films had threatened to put an end to his superstar status.
Go get him, killer! Behind the comedy dissects the wild excitement. This is the absorbing story of one man fighting to hang on in a world gone absurd.
They don't want you to score goals. They want blood. They're booing you.
Expressing his disillusionment, he told an interviewer, "It's easy for an actor to be corrupted. I always knew what happened to others, but I never knew it could happen to me. It's not the money, it's the fact that you start thinking of yourself as a movie star rather than an actor." No longer able to play the young romantic parts which had made him a star, the time had come for Paul Newman to redefine himself.
Now, Paul Newman has gone straight to the most commanding role of his career.
The result was one of the most successful career transitions in film history.
You know, I've been on this job 18 years. I think every minute of it is on my face.
From the embattled middle-aged cop in Fort Apache, the Bronx, to the libeled businessman in Absence of Malice, for which he received his 5th Best Actor nomination, Paul updated his loner image to fit his advancing years. In 1983, he gave a brilliant performance as a washed-up lawyer in The Verdict.
His name is Frank Galvin. 4 cases in the last 3 years. He's lost them all. He drinks. This man's scared to death to go to court.
What attracted Paul Newman mainly to the role of Frank Galvin in The Verdict was that Frank Galvin was a frightened man, a wounded icon of goodness, you could say.
There are no other cases. This is the case. There are no other cases. This is the case.
Paul Newman has always been afraid of failure, but what makes him wonderful is that he has constantly challenged his own fear of failure, so that if he's afraid of anything, his friends say, you can be sure that he will try to do it.
Push me into court 5 days early. I lose my star witness, and I can't get a continuance, and I don't care. I'm going up there, I'm going to try it, I'm going to let the jury decide.
The film earned Newman his 6th nomination for Best Actor, and for the 6th time, the statue eluded him. But Paul Newman was at a period in his life where mere trophies no longer were important. Much of his energy was now focused on a growing string of philanthropic causes, most notably an organization to help treat victims of alcohol and drug abuse, the Scott Newman Foundation.
I've always admired the effort and the ability that he has put into this charitable organization for Scott Newman. He's done something really unique out of tragedy, and he's done just a fantastic job, really. He's worked hard at something that he does not ever have to benefit financially from and never intended to. And that's few and far between in this world today.
We're human beings to begin with, and then we're actors. And I think things change within one's life. You go through good times and bad times, traumas in one's life. And Paul lost a son. I haven't analyzed his acting since then, but somewhere along the way, it had to take its toll in sense of changing and being possibly deeper in some resources of yourself.
During the so-called me decade of the 1980s, the Newmans' selfless interest in philanthropic causes grew. One night, while dining at Hollywood's fashionable Chasen's restaurant, Paul registered his dislike for the establishment's rather oily salad dressing. From these humble beginnings, the actor went on to market his Newman's own salad dressing, donating the profits to charity. Within a few years, a multi-million-dollar food company was born. In fact, Newman's Own was so successful that by 1985, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward could present a check for $250,000 for emergency relief to drought-stricken Africa. Paul, with characteristic humor, was quoted as saying, "From salad dressing, all blessings flow."
Paul Newman, Tom Cruise, in a Martin Scorsese picture.
In 1986, Paul Newman's resurrection as an actor was complete. Returning to the role that made him famous, he appeared as an older and wiser Fast Eddie Felson in Martin Scorsese's sequel to The Hustler, The Color of Money.
You're an incredible flake, but that's a gift.
Co-starring Tom Cruise, the film featured one of Newman's most textured and mature performances. It also sparked a lasting off-screen friendship between the veteran actor and his screen protege.
There are a lot of parallels between the youthful Paul Newman and Tom Cruise, wanting to resist being cast solely on the basis of looks, wanting to prove themselves as actors, enjoying masculine, challenging sports, and the two developed a wonderful relationship.
Paul asked me if I'd teach Tom Cruise, and he said that he was looking at doing another movie, doing a movie on racing. He wasn't as keen, though, as Paul. Paul decided, I want to drive a race car, and that's it. That's what I'm going to do. Tom drove a race car because they were going to make a movie, and he likes cars. And I think that there lies the difference.
The Color of Money became one of the biggest hits of the year, and not surprisingly earned Paul Newman his 7th Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. But to avoid the public embarrassment of yet another defeat, he elected to stay at home rather than attend the ceremony. On March 30th, 1987, Paul Newman was finally awarded the Oscar for the year's best performance by an actor. Presented by the legendary Betty Davis, veteran director Robert Wise accepted the statue.
Betty Davis was the presenter, so I go out to get this, and just about to start to thank him, and she said, well, we want to talk about you. We want to talk about your films. We want to talk about these films. Named all my films, not all of a lot of them, and they wouldn't let me get in there at all with my words of thanks and appreciation to the audience there at the Academy. Never did. So I had to call Paul the next day and tell him that I was sorry that I hadn't had a chance to express his appreciation there.
Later summing up his feelings, he said, "It's like chasing a beautiful woman for 80 years, and finally she relents, and you say, 'I'm terribly sorry, I'm tired.'"
The American diet just doesn't meet your needs, so I created vitamin formulas to bridge your nutritional gap.
With more vitamins and minerals than the leading multivitamin. Look for the vitamins recommended by a doctor. Dr. Argulee.
Right now, Zales has 12 months interest-free on beautiful jewelry. Like these dazzling 1-carat diamond earrings for just $7.99. And through Sunday, get 12 months interest-free at Zales.
You must remember this. A kiss is still a kiss. A sigh is just a sigh. The fundamental things apply as time.
Bold yet seductively smooth. Timeless Beaulieu Vineyard wines. Fall in love with BV.
Tomorrow on Biography This Week, paranoia grips the nation as the blockbuster thriller Enemy of the State rivets audiences to their seats. One veteran of the big screen takes the nation by storm. Gene Hackman on Biography This Week. Tomorrow at 8 Eastern, 9 Pacific on A&E. Catch Tony Bennett live by request with celebrity tributes and some very special guest performances. December 7th on A&E.
A lot of folks need peace of mind these days, and that's just what they get with Napa Auto Care's Peace of Mind warranty. Repairs are guaranteed on both parts and labor for 6 months or 6,000 miles anywhere they travel. And when they use the Napa card, they're guaranteed doubles to 12 months or 12,000 miles. How do I know our customers find peace of mind here? Because I own this shop, and their peace of mind is guaranteed.
We keep America running. We keep America running.
The 1999 Lexus ES 300. More powerful than ever, without losing so much as an ounce of civility.
You're watching Paul Newman on Biography.
After his Oscar-winning triumph in The Color of Money, Paul Newman continued to devote his time and energy to auto racing, directing, and an ever-expanding universe of charitable causes. His Newman's Own food company now included popcorn and other products, and helped earn him the title of one of modern America's leading philanthropists.
He makes millions of dollars come in with those products that he has to go on the market. Doesn't keep a cent of himself. It all goes to charity for those camps for kids that are suffering from cancer here and abroad. He's the most generous man, just philanthropic.
Among the organizations created from the Newman's Own revenues was the Hole in the Wall Gang Camp for seriously and terminally ill children. Boasting facilities for 800 kids ranging in age from 7 to 15, it also included a 300-acre recreation of a western town, complete with log cabins, music halls, and a frontier hospital with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment.
Is this as big a thrill as making movies?
More by a factor of about 50. I guess the biggest reward that I've ever had has been to take what I've got and be able to spread it around a little bit.
In 1992, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodward were each presented with one of the most prestigious awards that an American performer can receive, the Kennedy Center Honors.
Thank you very much. This is a special night for all of us. Certainly for Paul and Joanne and the other recipients, but for me as well. I'm here tonight to share my affection and my respect.
The following year, while celebrating his 35th wedding anniversary, Paul Newman was the first to admit that it hadn't always been easy. "I've been sent packing a few times," he said, "but we're not quitters."
I think it would be a very difficult profession to be in, and to be that big a star and not have some anchors in your life. Someone who loves you for who you are and not the ratings of the movies or whatever.
There are several reasons why Paul Newman has made such a graceful transition from his earlier persona as heroic leading man to his mature persona as heroic leading man. Part of it has to do with the public's growing recognition through the years that this man is indeed a hero in his personal life, his charitable works and his political and social efforts. He's still a very, very handsome man. As late as 1987, the women who voted for an Italian magazine poll voted Paul Newman the man they'd most want to go to bed with. He was in his 60s at the time.
Now one of America's sexiest senior citizens, Newman's allure seems eternal. As an actor, he continues to choose roles that challenge and invigorate him.
When Nobody's Fool, there was a certain dimension that surprised me, and maybe it just comes from getting older, but there was a kind of relaxation that I could have watched and watched. I was sorry when that movie was over.
In 1995, Paul Newman received his 8th Best Actor nomination for Nobody's Fool, playing the role of a simple, small-town man who is forced to confront the realities of his advancing age. But Paul Newman, the actor from Shaker Heights, Ohio, will remain forever young through appearances in nearly 100 film and television roles.
Even in his aging today, you see a tremendous amount of the youth that was there. I think it's wonderful.
Paul loves his work. I don't think he'll ever retire. He loves to act.
He has a wonderful sense of humor, but what was underneath all that was his absolute discipline.
Paul Newman, over the years, has really come to embody a wonderful notion of what we want a man to be. He has that primitive masculine energy, but he has transmuted it into something very noble and very wonderful.
He is not seemingly in it for himself, and he is very generous. He's a real human being.
I think he's just one of the very fine citizens of this country.
His image as a fine citizen has made Paul Newman one of this country's most sought-after corporate spokesmen. He refused to cash in on his cachet until he sold his voice to Texaco, one of his racing sponsors. After the giant oil company was accused of racial discrimination, Newman agreed to narrate a series of commercials meant to revive Texaco's tarnished image. His own company is celebrating its 15th anniversary. Over the years, Newman's Own has donated $90 million to charity. Sunday, the preacher heard round the world. Robert Schuller tends to a flock that numbers in the tens of millions. Robert Schuller, Sunday on Biography. For A&E, I'm Peter Graves. Thank you for being with us.